Hello there and a very warm welcome to the program. I am Victor Matthias. The call by the Nigerian Labour Congress and the Trade Union Congress that all Treasury looters should be sentenced to death in order to serve as a preventive measure from others has generated disagreement amongst the public. Now, while some believe that the demand by the unions should be a welcome development, some governors have described the suggestion as inhuman. We will be getting the reactions of Nigerians on the show today, but before we begin, let's take a look at the trending topics in the past week. World #1 female tennis player Serena Williams had her calendar Grand Slam quest crushed in stunning fashion as Italy's 43rd ranked Flavia Pennetta delivered a 2-6, 6-4, 6-4 upset shocker to reach the US Open final. The English Premier League returned to TV screens after the FIFA free window with its usual surprises, upsets and drama, and Nigerians wasted no time in taking to Twitter to exchange bants over results from the most watched drama series. Well, those were the trends in the past week. Let's now meet our online contributors to begin the conversation, which you also can be part of using the hashtag #TreasuryLooters.
I am in total support of the penalty for looters, for government and for public fund looters. And because I said that because if you look at it, if you don't loot, you won't die. But if you loot our fund and you are tried and you are found guilty, then what's the big deal there about you dying? After all, you looting has cost so many people's death. So dying for looting people and for looting public fund will not be a problem, should not be a problem if your hands are clean.
Some of us have always argued that for we to be able to stem the tide of corruption in Nigeria, we need to start looking at the Chinese model and see how, as a country, we can adopt that so that we can send a very clear message to looters or those who pillage the treasury, that there isn't any serious offense in you pillaging the treasury, but you have it at the back of your mind that when you do loot, you have to pay the supreme price. But again, that's an hypothesis that would never be put to test in Nigeria. You are dealing with a country whose foundation itself is shrouded in some bits of corruption, or if you like, bits of dishonesty. So when you have that kind of a system that hasn't taken time to correct itself over the last 55 years, you are tempted to continue to believe that there will never be a change. So I see that call from the NLC as a mere rhetoric than something that can be put to test. Nigeria is struggling from a very structural problem, and the defects have been with us for over 5 decades. And unfortunately also, we have not had the best of leaders who could see into the future, look into the future, and on behalf of unborn generations, take urgent steps towards making sure that corruption at least is minimized to the barest minimum. And the only way they can do that is by ensuring that the right penalties are meted out to people who loot the treasury.
Corruption, yes, they say corruption is, maybe they say in America, that is the justification of a lot of lazy minds. Oh, that after all, in America or in England, the people there's corruption. Maybe not, but they have a system that actually does not care about your name, about your face, about your family. And if you are found wanton, you actually would face the law, the wrath of the law, instead of actually having the chance to come back and become a somebody in your society, in your system. So the death penalty, I understand that it could help to deter people, but if we look at it, Nigerians, a lot of people who have stolen money today, we don't have many of them in prison. We look at the judgments they get from the courts. A fine of somebody steals 7 billion or 10 billion, you get a fine for the person to pay 7 million or 1% or 10% of what they have stolen. That is nothing. The person who actually pays the money and continue living their lives.
I understand very perfectly God is bias and where he's coming from. You know, when you have stayed outside Nigeria for a very long time, particularly when you stay in the first world country. There's that tendency for you to always think like them. And I feel it's a noble idea that he's pushing forward, but he seems to be missing the fact that we are dealing with Nigeria. It's a special country with its own definition, with different characters that you can't find anywhere in the world. When someone steals money in Nigeria and you say, okay, we're going to bar you from holding public offices or public office, we're going to make sure that we blacklist you. We're going to make sure that your generation or your family or yourself do not have anything tangible to be written about again in life. That doesn't work on the mind of a corrupt Nigerian, so to speak. He doesn't care. Someone who soils his hands in the first instance already accepts the fact that he's morally deficient. So you telling him you are going to blackmail him, it's a waste of time. You cannot blackmail someone who is already blackmailed, I mean, deep down within himself. And so that for me is a psychological treatment that will only work in an advanced country, not like a country like Nigeria where nothing works, nothing happens, and you are not so sure of which is right and which is wrong. It's a very straightforward analysis. If you have 10 people stealing or looting the treasury or perhaps dipping their hands into our commonwealth or people's commonwealth, when you take out one out of those 10, you don't have 10 people remaining, you have 9 remaining. And you don't really need to get bothered about whether killing them would, in the final analysis, reform them. In the first instance, why do you have to reform someone who has chosen not to be reformed? Why would you like to reform someone who feels that the best way to get to the top is through the shortcut? I mean, that analysis does not fly in my own face. I think it's a Western style orientation that would not work on a Nigerian situation that is particularly defective. And mark my words, a defective system requires a pretty aggressive solution. Because corruption has gone on in Nigeria for only God knows how long, you cannot use psychology as a first step towards eradicating corruption.
All right, guys, let's just take a break there now from the discussion. We'll go on a break and we'll return. We'll continue from where we stop.